Hey, everybody. Welcome to Tattva Tuesday. This is The Conduit with Lindsay Warwick on Spotify and YouTube. Super excited for this week's guest. I feel like I've had a lot of male energies recently, so it's really exciting to have Jessica Durivage on the podcast today, just to get back into that feminine energy. She's a capacity builder. She is a social artist and passionate servant to the collective, among other things. So thank you so much for being here, Jess. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Lindsay. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm
Yes.
so excited. Literally, this podcast gave me, like, knowing that I would be talking to you, gave me life today because I'm extremely tired, but it's all good. I'm so happy that you're here. So, I experienced a Koya, like the Koya with you. And I immediately was drawn to your energy. I see all the things that you're doing on social media. I know you work for Kripalu. I'm sure you have an amazing story, and I got the nudge from Spirit to ask you to be on. So, with that being said, some light concepts here on Top of a Tuesday, including what is your conception of God, Source, Wonkin Tonkin, Great Spirit? And, how did you even get on this spiritual path? And so that's kind of where we start, and then we just roll with it.
Right on.
Oh,
All
yeah,
right.
just some casual conversation.
That's right. I like jumping right in the deep end.
Yeah.
So, yeah, super grateful. Thanks so much for holding this space and feeling led to have these conversations with people. And, just for folks that are listening, like to be able to see yourself in the stories and the reflections that folks share. So, thank you so much, Lindsay. Thanks for being called to do this work.
Thanks for saying that. And
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely part of my passion. I don't know. I just listen to the call and I follow it.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Um, I just like right in when people ask like how did I get on this path? The biggest thing that I was always really curious, and I remember like going to sort of a um kind of like Baptist wave your hands around, church with a friend of mine in high school and just being really curious about it. But I also was raised by a mother who was trying to leave the Catholic religion, and so there was like a tension, between like the sacred and the ceremony and the religion, sort of like the ritual type like aspect of spirituality. And then my mom just wanting to just really expose my brother and I to like non-religion still while being, kind of like condemning herself for leaving. Right. So there was, I think, a lot of that through my younger years. I was like baptized and made my confirmation in high school. So went to, church school all through high school. But I think that, when I was 19, I got pregnant and I had a daughter and I placed her for adoption. And that was really just like, that is just such like the biggest turning point in my life. It remain like it is why I was put here on this planet. And so I was able to like do that big massive work at a really I was able to do that big like kind of this big massive action at a really young age, feeling very called and led to do that. And there's like just so many things around that led me, because I just didn't know what the hell I was doing, and I just knew that was what I was supposed to do. And then sort of unpacking it for like literally the rest of my life. And I so that really put me, I was in school for theater. I was in college for theater, and then just like did a complete 360, and I was in Haiti 6 months later, like waving my hands around, with Haitians in teaching school, and lived down there for a couple of years, on and off. Really, really just looking for like a sustained connection to source, because that like the birth of my daughter and going into, the hospital with like basically God in your belly and then leaving without God in your belly was, major. I'm I don't mean to say it lightly, but it was just it changed my whole life. And also the act of like the sacrifice of sharing her, because I'm connected to her now, just like for folks, like I'm going to Atlanta actually this weekend to look for wedding dresses with her and her mom and her fiance's mom. She's getting married in November of
Wow.
2023. She's 24. I've been connected with her since she was 15. So, so it's been a journey for sure. But, but like at that time, it was like just trying to make sense of like receiving this massive, request from spirit to do this, have this baby, place this baby for adoption, and then like use sort of that like emptiness to like find source, connect with, or like not even emptiness, but kind of to I just always have been dancing with that. I think since then, dancing with that feeling, and even like connecting with her doesn't replace the feeling of like having that God moment of like that request and that task and that job to do here in this lifetime.
Wow. I don't think I knew that about you. So that is really, it's amazing. It's also really amazing and beautiful to hear that you have been connected to her since she was 15, and now you're going to support her as she like makes this huge step in her life of getting married. Um, and I know before we even started recording this, we were kind of talking a little bit about your own marriage. So maybe this is the segue. But yeah, I think that is amazing. And I think that that's so wonderful that you're going to be part of all of that. So yeah, let's talk about, do you want to talk about the marriage stuff?
Yeah.
I know I follow you on social media, and I know that you just got back from some journeying travels, and I read your post and it was like incredibly beautiful, and I would love for you to elaborate on your experiences and yeah, just marriage. I've never been married, so I'm curious. I'm curious.
um so well, thank you. Thanks for like acknowledging that, and just allowing a space to share about that, and I think I want to build a bridge from that to like this marriage conversation. And it's that I've always, I guess that experience just kind of forced me, because I so badly just wanted to have like a normal life, like for a long time, right? Like I really rebelled against, maybe the one of me that really wanted to be unconventional, or the rebel inside of me. There was always a tension, right? Like always a fight for many, many, many years of like knowing that like I didn't really want to buy into what everybody was selling, but also just like wanting it to be easy, and can I just drink the Kool-Aid and be fine? But I never was, right? Because I was always like, what? This shit tastes bad, I don't want that. Like, spit that out, give that back. And this dynamic with my daughter is so unconventional, right? Like it's so taboo, it's, I think, that like I can't go anywhere and see that reflected back. It's hard to go and find other people that have relationships like this that you can reflect back and go like, oh, I see myself in that. So I was always like, oh, I don't, like it really forced me to have to accept this very unconventional relationship, and take it for what it is, not try to put it in any kind of box, not go looking to be her, like, what does it mean to like be a birth mother, but not a parent and not a mom, and I am
Yeah.
a mom as well. I have an 8-year-old. So like,
Yeah.
so what is that like? And so when my husband and I this year were celebrating 10 years of marriage, we've been together for 16 years. And when we got married, we really wanted to be very unconventional. That was the deep desire. We wanted, we like he had already been married once, and there was a real deep desire to follow our own path and do our own thing. And I think like for in many aspects in many aspects we do have, I think, an alternative relationship compared to social norm, like a broad view of social norm. And with that said, it's very hard not to fall into a current, right, or of conventionality of roles like provider, like domestic la la la. And because again, there's not much being reflected, especially like living here in the South, like there's not much like reflection back of other folks doing back this, I think that there's more now today, like in this moment, as we're sitting here speaking, I'm like, oh my God, like 20 years ago, like I taught yoga at the only yoga studio in Myrtle Beach, and now there's like what you're doing, and like the things that the, her sacred circle is doing, and, just the things that the folks that are the things that people are doing here in this area in Myrtle Beach, and people might be listening from all over the country, and there's some places in the country where I've lived and been where, community is just a little, the framework and the support for folks that want to live outside of societal norm with their relationships or how they structure their families, is there's a lot more support. And here there just really hasn't been. And so we sort of really fell, I think, into some of those traps without knowing. And so, like I highly recommend anybody that's in a relationship to go away for a month, take a minute, take a beat, that should be normalized. It should be normalized to create those kinds of boundaries for you to go and like reconnect with your best self, and them to reconnect with their best self, and then come back together and keep rediscovering one another. Like, but that's sort of the space that my husband and I are in right now, is we're really like, I think about folks that do like the unschooling path with their kids, and I'm like, I want to create like an unmarried like course for people who are married, that we can sort of like free ourselves from the societal norm that of marriage, and like, so things like, I mean, not this is like, this could be added to for sure, but just like to be able to explore different aspects of your sexuality, and man woman marriage, there's a like a real, sort of like pressure, or there's a norm around, both the man and the woman being heterosexual, right? So like exploring different aspects of your sexuality, like that, like, so that's just like one example of something that I'm really interested in at the moment, and like interested in looking at and exploring, and my husband's like super into it. Like we're both, but I think having that it's taken a lot of courage and a lot of fearlessness to do that and have some of these conversations, and then sort of look at it like, I'm not going to center my marriage anymore. I'm going to center my relationship. We just happen to be married, right? Like, but like the marriage isn't what the central thing is. It's the relationship between he and I that will constantly change. Married is like a construct that doesn't change. Right. Like marriage, it's like a contract, right? But relationships change. And I think just even like how you orient yourself to that, and I'm like, oh, I should have thought of that a long time ago, but I didn't. I was like today years old when, I was really like, and it feels good. It feels good to do that, to just like orient to the relationship and not the marriage.
I have so many questions. I don't know if you could see that it's like, and my brain's like, so first of all, because I've never been married, well, not you, it's fine. When you say conventional marriage, I don't even know what that looks like, because that's not something that I've ever, like, I haven't had that. And so that was my first question, is like, what is marriage? What is conventional marriage? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I think that like it's
what does it mean?
It's, oh, I got engaged. Ooh, I got to get a wedding dress. Ooh, I got to plan a wedding. Ooh, like all these programs from when you were a little girl, or hopes and dreams that other people may have had for you, your own hopes and dreams, playing MASH with your friends, and like all this stuff, all these programs like get activated inside of you, and it's just like acknowledging, and it's very strong, right? It's like, especially if you have religion in your background, like or like a strong, or a family that's religious. And I think that like all those things really play a part, and it's just acknowledging that that's not actually you, right? Like that's not actually you. It might not be you, even you now. Maybe it was you when you were a little girl, or 9 or 10, right? But then it's like, there's still, I mean, I remember standing on the pedestal with my wedding dress, and being like, wait a minute, this is a scam. I only get to do this once. I was like, what? Like you don't realize that shit until you get there. And then you're
Mhm.
like, and it's all like a beautiful illusion, like none of that is really about the relationship with the person at all. And
No.
so it can really sweep you up. And like I said, like I think my husband and I have done a pretty good job of trying to stay grounded outside of some of those things. But I was like, I know I was like, I'm not going to get married, or I'm going to elope. As soon as I got engaged, I was like, white dress. Let's go look at dresses.
Wow. Yeah.
Like just really change. I
Hmm.
did. He did too. And it was great. We had an awesome wedding. It was beautiful. I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change it at all. Um, but I think like conventional, just like all those things that you think, like, or when you have a baby, same thing as like when you have a baby, I still think I did very unconventional things, but my husband and I quickly fell into like provider and domestic housewife,
It's
sort of
like
roles.
male role, female role, that
Yeah.
whole thing.
And
Interesting.
that's okay, Lindsay. It's okay because like the reality is like, well, if I'm going to breastfeed my son, I'm the only one that can do that. It's the stories that go along with that are you pulling, like instead of choosing to write your own, you just like drop into like hundreds of years of narrative.
Hmm. The idea of, and I'm 34, so
I was
my,
35 when I got married, girl. So
hey girl, hey.
there you go.
My concept of relationships has shifted over time, and I have a lot of Scorpio in my chart, very transformative. Like Sarah Nicole read me and was like, whoa, you like change every year basically, so you're gonna have to find someone that can keep up and understand that, yeah, that was Lindsay last year, but Lindsay this year is a little different. And so that made me think about marriage and long-term relationships. It's like, it intimidates me a little bit because it's like, holy shit, finding someone that can keep up with the evolution of you. Like you're shifting and they're shifting. And then what if you shift into something that they energetically, it doesn't vibrate well? And so then I got to thinking as well about, the whole ring concept, right? Like the ring, like you belong to me. And I'm like, exploring these ideas of love and unconditional love. And to me, unconditional love is not possession. And so it confuses me. You know what I'm saying?
I do. And I love that you shared that about like the shape shifting and the changing and the transforming. And I think you really like hit the nail on the head for what needs to be like right up front, up top of any relationship that you would ever go into, is like that's your right, that's that's your freedom to do that.
Yeah.
And um and 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 we just don't know what's going to happen, right, in relationships. But if you're centering um honesty, and if you're centering integrity, and if you're centering openness and kindness and compassion, then I think that like relationships can really, like, it can be beautiful to like be in that
Yeah.
space of transforming, and also like being in a space with your partner when they change and transform. But like what you just shared is like, I wish I put that on my resume when I got married. Like I wish that was like on my
Will
cover letter.
evolve a lot.
Yeah,
Will
totally.
not be the same
Mm-mm.
ever. Like,
No.
I saw this beautiful meme. I think it said to love somebody long term is to attend 1,000 funerals of who they used to be. Ooh, I just got chills. And I was like, damn, that hits. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? And it's like also the idea, yeah, just loving someone unconditionally is literally to me allowing them to be fully who they are. And that's hard when you have this concept of, I don't know, is it the left hand? I'm horrible at that. I don't know. I've never been married. This ring thing, like I belong to you, you belong to me. But and the same breath here because I literally was just home in New Jersey and witnessed my grandparents that have been together married for 63 years. And I'm like, God, that's so,
Oh,
yes. And I'm like, God, that is so beautiful. I want that. But then here I go. I'm a deep thinker. And it's like, I feel like, and I've shared this on the podcast before, that the only ones that we're really looking for are ourselves. So, yeah, I mean, just the idea of being with one person for that long is just really mind blowing to me and beautiful and like sacred, but also like it kind of terrifies me a little bit if I'm being honest.
one of the Carl and I were in Costa Rica many years ago. We lived in a community, and just remember, and this was such beautiful advice, and I really believe this with all my heart, is and it helped me a lot because I'm definitely a recovering kind of codependent type person. I've just been in a lot of relationships, and I love being in relationship, and but that when you're with community, like really identifying who your community is, because you can't get everything from one person either. And so like I have really close girlfriends that I know if I need to be seen in this way, I'm going to get this from this person or this person, and not putting also all that pressure on my partner to be the one to give me everything, and being like super clear about that too. And and as time changes and people evolve, like people in your life come and go, and maybe there's a time and place when your partner can hold different aspects of you that couldn't hold before, and that I'm experiencing that.
Yeah.
Like there were times when then my partner couldn't hold certain aspects of me, and I wasn't able to hold certain aspects of them. And now we're in this crossroads where we're I don't know if we've expanded or what it is, but just we're more open to holding maybe different aspects of one another. And but I love the idea. Like I don't know what I'd do without my girls,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Seriously.
definitely, totally, 100%. And like, and my brother, and other
Mhm.
men in my life too. And so, I think that's it's really important. And I do think, and I want to give just like I want to like, oh, like love on the men out there for a minute, because I
Oh
think that
yeah, for sure. Let's do that. I think
let's do it.
they need to be loved on.
Well, I don't know what I would do without my girlfriends and all the women that helped me after I had my son. The women, like I wasn't breastfed, but I breastfed for 2.5 years. My mom did not co-sleep with me, but I co-slept. And these were intuitive things I wanted to do, but I wouldn't have known how to do it unless I had a community of women that were supporting me and reflecting back to me and had gone ahead, and I could look to what they were doing. Same thing with my teachers that are women, same thing in the goddess circle. And I see that kind of happening with men, like a little, but
Yeah.
definitely don't have that, right? So when my son was born, and I was like I was so reliant, on all these women. I think my husband was like really feeling and bearing the burden of some of these stories and these narratives, and his reality also, alone. And and also like now, like, just being in a space where we're married 10 years, and and together 16, and we have a child, and we've been through deaths of you know parents and things like this. I'm like, who is he when you're out with the guys, right? Is it like sacred time? Are you crying on someone's shoulder? Are you really, really like, can you identify in your male friends, I get this from this person, and that helps me, or I get this from this person. And I don't think there's enough support out there for men. You
There's a lot
mentioned
of
earlier.
stigma against them too, to be, you know, don't show
Yes.
emotion, don't cry. And there's a lot of, I see, I guess, double standard about like, toxic masculinity, but no one's having, well, maybe I'm not hearing the conversations, but the toxic femininity too. There's the shadow side of the feminine. I mean, and I think that a lot of the spotlight gets shown on the toxic aspects of masculinity, but Yeah, I love that you said that we should give a shout out to the divine masculine, because there are men out there that are just, they are just so sweet and they just want to like express themselves. But because of the stigma and societal bullshit, you know what I mean? They don't. So I love that you brought this up too.
Yeah, get out there and connect, guys. They all want to, like I know here, but here in Myrtle Beach, I know that there's a great men's group. My husband just started going, and it's
Oh
like, and I'm
yeah.
just so excited about him going. But I will
Yeah.
say, even at Kripalu, we scratch our heads about, gosh, like we want men to come to campus. We want them to know this is a safe place for them to come, and we scratch our heads at like how it gets into the water, you know.
I know you, how long have you been at Kripalu now?
For almost a year.
It's awesome.
I I interviewed with Kripalu 20 years ago, which was wild, but I've been working there for
Yeah.
almost a year. Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. And I know that you also had a podcast for quite some time too, right?
I I did like way back in the day. I had a
Called Where
podcast.
is My Guru?
Where is my guru? Leading you back to you. That was the
See,
tag. That was the
I
tagline.
literally, I have to check that out. Where can I check that out? Are there episodes
Nowhere really.
available?
Yeah, there's episodes if you Google it, but it's not on Spotify. Like I don't even think there was like a Spotify when I was doing it. I mean, it was in like 2008,
You're
9,
like
10, 11. It's
OG
OG.
podcaster.
It was back like in we used to go, my husband would take pictures and I would do the podcast and we would go travel around before we got married, before we had kids, to Wanderlust and to Yoga Journal conferences and the Hanuman Festival and to all these festivals, and we would just interview people and take pictures, and it was really fun. That was a fun like season for sure.
That sounds super fun. So then how did you get into Koya?
um I so Koya is, for those that are like just listening, it's movement with meaning. It's sort of an inspired embodiment experience, kind of like the intersection of yoga, dance, somatic movement, a share circle, and a vision quest. So all these things, kind of wrapped up in one. And I was with a friend of mine. She had invited me to come and like open a ceremony for her and her friends. And so I was just like getting everything ready to open the space for them. And I was like, hey girl, what you been doing? And she was like, I've been doing this thing called Koya and I'm getting divorced. I was like, and so I was like, what is that? So I just went right home and I was like, Google it, and I looked, and was really like, I was a strict Ashtangi for many years, and then I
Damn,
practiced
girl.
with, yeah, very, very like lineage based, and I did para yoga with several teachers, and so just I was really like, I got my mantra from my teacher, and like, and I keep my mala beads in my little bag, and like it's all secret, and Koya was just so like, it just was like so freeing. I was kind of like,
Mm.
I was like, what is that? And I was already sort of like on a divine feminine like path that had kind of opened up for me, especially after I had my son. And so I was teaching a divine feminine inspired yoga class on Sunday mornings, and I was doing some Koya, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna bring some of this into the class. And some of it's like you shake your body for a song, or you circle your body for a song, or you do this beautiful just like breath movement and set intentions. And I was like, okay, well, we're gonna set an intention and then we'll do some vinyasa, or we'll do this and then we'll do some yin. And people really loved it. Like the women were just like, wow, like it feels so good in my body. And that's kind of what Koya is all about. It's an invitation to be in your body. And I literally, like, that was in 2017. I'd been teaching yoga for like 18 years, and I just taught like my first yoga class like this past spring for Kripalu, but I just like did not look back. I did my teacher training, never taught a yoga class again. I was like, there's so many great yoga teachers, I got them all on speed dial. I will send you one. But if you want Koya, if you want to pull a card, if you want to be in your body, if you want to remember who you are through movement and dance and expression, then let's do it. And so I just love it. I love the Koya community. I love the founder of Koya. Her name is Rochelle. We do a lot of work with the Karo people, the indigenous peoples, where sort of the name Koya came from. So Koya means queen and Inca means king.
Mm.
And so like,
Oh.
yes. And so I know. And so she was
Yeah.
basically like gifted this name from the Karo elders. And, you know, we do a lot of work every month. She does, especially every month, just giving back to the community. And it's just, yeah, there's a lot of ritual aspects to the practice and different ways to be in relationship to the practice. I'm getting ready to join a friend who's doing a 12-week writing retreat, where it's like, it's just so beautiful. Like, she's gonna do the writing retreat. I'm like, oh, let's do some Koya to like help seed what everybody's doing more, you know? And so, yeah, long story to your question, but I love it. I found it and I was like, damn, like this is like, it is what lights me up. And it doesn't light everybody up. Some people come and they're like, I don't want to dance, you know, or like, I just want to do vinyasa. And I'm like, go for it. Like, vinyasa is cool too. I love it.
Yeah, I only got a little taste of the Koya because it was an event at the Centered Soul. And I know you just had one aspect of it. And I just remember like the songs that you shared, like that water flow song. I love it. I love that song. And it just, I really got like into my body when I was moving. And I mean, I love dancing. So I loved it, but I feel like I need the full experience of Koya.
Yes, we need to do some Koya. We need, yes.
And I love
Yes.
that it's like queen and king, like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. It's super cool. It's beautiful too, because it's the way that it's, especially like as we are kind of look into this new paradigm and we're trying to like make this transition into the future. It's the founder and the way that the practice is set up is it's very malleable to change, right? It was like when she created it, it's just for women. And now, you know, she's just like, that's really not what's calling to it anymore. Like opening it up and changing how, you know, it orients with the world and the space. And it was like really looked, a lot of people that practice Koya looked a lot like me and you know, and like white, very light. And so doing a lot of work around how to make it more accessible and what, you know, what we can do to be a more inclusive community, and why, you know, that is in general, like why it felt like, you know, like BIPOC and folks of color, indigenous folks didn't feel attracted to the practice. So, yeah, I love that aspect of it, as well as just the practice.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going through a little evolution of its own,
Yeah.
just like all things evolve. I think that's pretty amazing. So you said something earlier too, and I'm all over the place. I hope it's good for you. Just
So good for me. It's so good for me. Can I light my cigarette? Yeah.
I'm like literally like, she said this and I want to talk about this, but I also want to talk about this. So whatever, that's how we're doing this. So you talked about like being a recovering codependent, and I literally had this thought today because like I'm dating and doing the things, and I literally like I have gotten to this place now that I'm 34, almost 35, where like I literally am good with or without somebody. And I'm like, I've never been in that place. Like I'm so solid in myself that like I feel like I don't need anybody at all. And so yeah, I literally was thinking about this before the podcast today. So I guess we're supposed to talk like about relationships, because I'm just like, yeah, like I never used to be in this place. Like I used to be overly concerned about like what the other person was doing, or why aren't they saying this, or why aren't they doing this, and now I'm just like, I don't care, but not in like a bad way, if that even makes any fucking sense.
I love that for you, Lindsay. I
Oh,
really do. I really,
thanks.
really love that
There
for
you,
you.
because I'm just like, fuck, people are gonna think, these guys are gonna think I don't give a shit about them, and that's not it. I'm good. And it's
Yeah. And if
weird.
that's, you want like someone that can see that and isn't, you know, that's like confident, that like turns them on, like your confidence. And you know, just like, you know, one of the things that I've been working with is boundaries, but like not a
Mm,
wall, and imagining it like I'm
yeah.
planting like a little circle of wildflowers around me. and how I
Aw.
want someone to look inside that circle and see me thriving inside of it and love that, and really, and want to water it from the other side, and like, and want that, and want something for them too. Like, how, so I feel like, yeah, I don't know if there's anything to say to that, except I think that's a beautiful thing to aspire to, whether you're in a relationship or you're single, is to want that for your partner, to like
Yeah,
fearlessly trust, to like them to want, like desire so badly for them to be like living their best life, and to,
exactly.
yeah, and to like be like, and you know what, like that actually doesn't have any, like it might have something to do with me, like as a, but it's not about me, it's about my partner, right? And
Yep.
so, you'll, I think, keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, I guess I can say that I've definitely been toxic and codependent in relationships before. And I've been on a very intensive healing journey. And yeah, I've gotten to this place where I'm like, okay. And also, I feel like just referencing like the masculinity, femininity, blah, blah, you know what I mean? The feminine, it's like addressing my own dark feminine and how I used to utilize like my sexual energy and all this. And now I'm like, I don't really believe in like casual sex per se. And I feel like attached to men in that way first before like getting to actually know them and having space and boundaries and all this. So this is like a whole new world for me too. It's
I
crazy.
think that's
Crazy
so
talk.
wonderful. No, it's not crazy talk. It's so wonderful. I've had a lot of conversations with, we talk about like transforming, right? And like, I'm not the same person I was. And, and I've been 16 years, I've grown up a lot with my husband. I was with him, all through my 30s. I'm 44 now.
I
And
was gonna say, girl, I have no idea how old you are with all these 20 years ago, 18 years ago. I'm like,
I
damn,
know.
you look really beautiful.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, I had
Um,
no idea.
well, I mean, I grew up with him. I definitely had some relationships
Yeah.
before that, but like definitely have grown up with Carl. And um, but when I met him, sex was a real love language for me, but in a codependent way. So if somebody was having sex with me, then they loved me. Like that's kind of like, I had like some stories. There was definitely a lot of stories, and I've had to unravel that story and then sort of like find a new, and that kind of almost like turned me off from sex for a while, and then like, create a new story around like, around myself as like a, almost like a sex goddess, like just for me, like how do I find myself sexy? Like how, like it's the same sort of thing that you were just saying about yourself. Like it's like I'm so into myself and into my body and into the way I feel and into pleasuring myself and the way I look. It's like that is what I want someone else to get off on.
Yeah, I'm definitely, and I'm like into my everything that I'm doing. And it's like, I want the person that I'm with to love their life and love what they're doing and just love themselves so much that it's like, because honestly, my last relationship was really codependent, toxic, and abusive. And this person made me their whole world. And I just don't want to be anybody's world anymore. I'm my own world. And I've done a lot of work on the union of my own masculine energy, my own feminine energy. And I'm just, yeah, I'm kind of like, I'm just good like with it. And it took a lot of work. And, I also have been in a lot of different relationships. And I've learned something from all of them. And yeah, it is definitely an interesting, it's new for me.
And it's so much work. It's a lot of
So
work.
much.
I was talking to my mother today, and we were talking about like how, like if you even think about like my mom who's lost both her parents, I've lost my father, my mom is still alive, but like that idea of like these parents. And so as we get older, not, I mean, you don't have to do it when you get older. Like you're listening in your 20s, like think about it now. Like don't wait until you get older, right? It's like, but like how you, that masculine feminine is also like how you mother and father yourself, like
Oh,
how you parent your own self, meet, and you think about that, like meeting your own needs. So kind of just kind of keep coming back to sort of the what you shared about, just like, I'm okay, like with myself. I'm okay. I know how to meet my own needs. I know how to soothe myself if I need soothing. I can, and then I can love you from this place of like being like really full. I can love you from this place and desire you from this place that's not from a like a lack, like, yeah, you need to give something to me in order for me to feel complete.
Yes, exactly. It's like I used to think like, okay, let's say somebody was tired or, just not in a good mood and not responding to me in the way I wanted them to. I would get mad and take it personally because how dare you do that to me? But now, because I love the fuck out of myself and I know how I am when I'm tired and I'm in a bad mood, I want you to take care of yourself. And I know that that has nothing to do with me at
Yeah.
all. But in the
Yeah.
past, I would have probably taken it a kind of way or been like, why aren't you doing this for me? When like, it's totally different for me now, just because I have that unconditional love for myself that I can see like how another person actually needs to take care of themselves versus them just doing what I want them to do, you know?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah. I mean, and also you think about what was modeled back to you,
Oh yeah.
like, so, I was talking to a very, very dear friend of mine, and she's just like the only, like, her therapist said something to her, like, the only thing you've ever seen is how to hold together a marriage that's not working. So that's what you learned how to do.
Whoa, I
You
just got chills.
so like so then it's sort of too, like, then we need to step into community and support. Like when I said, oh, I wasn't breastfed, but I knew I wanted to be breastfed. I knew I knew I wanted to be breastfed. I did probably, but I knew that I wanted to be breastfed.
Yeah.
But like, where am I getting my reflections for like thriving relationships? And again, like, it doesn't maybe necessarily have to be like another man and a woman. It can be like a mirroring of like one of my girlfriends, or it can be a mirroring of, other type. It can be a mirroring of my relationship with the earth. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, just, so I feel like just super, we have to really understand what we were shown and taught in terms of related,
Hmm.
kind of keep coming back in the podcast to like centering relationship.
Yeah, definitely.
So
It's
yeah.
been, I love that you mentioned that too about your parents and the idea of, I grew up, my parents got divorced when I was 7. I saw it not work between them. And even as a kid, I was like, why are they even together? Like, just leave each other. And so now it's like, I don't know. Maybe that's part of the reason why I'm not married yet, is because like I've been with really amazing men, some of them not so good too, like, all teachers. I mean, and it's like there was something inside that like some of them wanted to marry me and I was like, no. And I didn't follow society, like, I just went with what was inside of my soul and my heart. But maybe part of that is also some, I saw divorce when I was 7. I haven't seen the long term except for my grandparents, which on both sides, like my one grandparents were married over 50 years before my grandfather passed. And then, my grandparents are still married 63 years later. So I know it exists, but it's like, yeah, totally. I've done so much shadow work, so much inner child shit about like like just looking at, yeah, how I relate emotionally in relationships or what type of shit I accept or accepted before. Cause now I'm like, my boundaries are pretty damn strong, but before they weren't. And it's like, why are you doing those things? And so you had to go inside and look at like little Lindsay, like, what the fuck is going on there? Like, what have you seen? What
Yeah.
have you learned? And so I'm glad that you said that too, because it's making me even think deeper about my own, the way that I relate.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Absolutely. I don't know. It's good shit.
Yeah, then you have the, also the other direction. It's like, well, my parents got divorced, so I'm going to get married and it's going to work like no matter what I do. So yeah, I guess we are pretty much motivated by shit that's you. Did you just point to yourself?
Guilty.
Yeah.
A little bit, a little
I've
bit.
literally had men recently, like maybe it's because I don't know, maybe it's because I'm just vibrating at a higher frequency, but they're like, why the fuck aren't you married? How are you not wifed up? I'm like, I don't know. I haven't felt it.
You know, it's I think I do think that like I think monogamy can be really beautiful. We're exploring that right now, but I also think that um there's a lot of like entrapment around that story
Yeah.
and monogamy as a norm. And I don't want to take the credit. My husband was the one who was like who said like, you know, what would it be like to open up? And we haven't, but we're just in a we're in conversation about it. And I first I was just like, there's a part of me who was just like, oh my God, you know, but then there's like this other part of me is like on the other side of that. And she's just, and it's one of me, and she's just like so free. And so like, this is what you came for, girl. Like, you know, like you want to fall in love with everyone, you know, that like, that's your jam. You want to fall, like, you know, you want to fall in love with Lindsay here on this podcast, and you're going to talk to somebody tomorrow and you want to fall in love with them. And like, and that's what you want to do. And it doesn't mean like, you know, one time I did say to my husband, like, open up the marriage. And he was like, what do you mean? You know, and I'm like, just open up our fucking minds outside of like how people have said it needs to be. Just
Yeah.
like continue to press up against those edges and those boundaries. And in doing that, we're like in a place now where we're like, okay, we want that, but we've got to do the inner work so that we have a strong foundation to like start to reach out further. So we can either come back to ourselves or come back to like the agreements and the commitment that we have to each other.
I think that's really amazing and beautiful. And something that came to me as you were talking is like the level of honesty and trust that is required to have conversations like you're having. It's amazing. And like sometimes, like, you know, how hard is it sometimes to just be seen, like just share your truth with that safety. And it sounds like you guys have that safe container between you, that you can have those real raw conversations. And I don't know, I think that's beautiful. I've had thoughts about too the whole, I mean, you heard what I said before, the fucking ring, like it feels like so like you belong to me, like possession. And so I've like talked to some people that are ethically non-monogamous and polyamorous, and that confuses me too, because just like you said, the other aspects of you come out. Other aspects are like, you know, maybe feeling jealousy, or like what the hell's going on, does he not love me anymore? And then the other side of me is like, you know, at a basic level, we're fucking animals. So I don't know. I have no idea. And that's why I'm not married yet, because I want to be seen. I want to be seen. I want to be heard. I want to feel safe. And like, yeah, I feel like I don't know if I fit into that cookie cutter marriage that society paints. So damn, this got really deep.
Well, I want to, you know, I want to preface too that like we're in the process of doing a lot of that work. We're in
Yeah,
the process of
I think it's
of like,
amazing.
yeah, but we're not there yet. You know, like we're like when you I thank you so much for saying it. It does take a lot of honesty. It does take a lot of courage. It does take a lot of fearlessness. And getting to that place is like has been like really acknowledging like when we haven't been honest, when I haven't been honest with him or with myself, when there hasn't been a safe environment that's been created, what do we need to do to cultivate that? And those things right now are saving our relationship, you know, of being courageous enough to like step into that like after knowing each other for 16 years, after knowing all the ugly, all of it, you know, like all like and just being willing to try to cast like a not a new net, you know, because you are wherever you go, there you are, you know, but
Yeah.
to and to like to kind of to just say like, well, I'm not happy, you're not happy. What's going to make us happy? We kind of want to push these boundaries, and we're like, whoa, that's making us happy to push up against some of these boundaries a little bit.
I mean, yeah, I think it's amazing and I think it's raw and I think it's real because, yeah, I mean, at least that's how I view it. But I know, like, yeah, I think it is takes a huge amount of honesty and vulnerability and just, yeah, I think it's amazing that you're having those conversations and it just makes, yeah, it blows my mind too. Cause, then you see all I see a lot of couples, I feel like that aren't exactly happy because they're not able to fully express who they are. And so that's something that I think I'm also terrified of is like getting involved and then losing senses of who I am because I've done that in the past. So it's like, yeah, it's very interesting shit.
It's interesting, and but you know, Lindsay, like you know this, like I mean, that's what we do is we lose ourselves when we find ourselves, and we lose ourselves
Mm-hmm.
and we find ourselves. And I think like in relationship and not just like with a partner, you know, but like it, you know, it's just having those folks around you to either like slap you upside the head if you're getting too, you know, like far gone, but also to like love you into finding yourself again and hold you when you're like lost and you just can't see, you know, the tree for the forest in that time, and like and trusting that, you know, you will again. And I say that for people outside yourself, and then that relationship you keep bringing us back to in this conversation of the relationship with yourself, of like
Mm-hmm.
that one of you that's like able to mother you and say like, I know you're you'll be fine, you know, like, or I know you'll find yourself again, or this is a part of it. And remembering, when you remember after you've forgotten, it just gets sweeter and sweeter, you know, every time that taking that bite of that fruit of remembering, you know, it's like dripping down your face. So good.
Yeah, I love it. And, the whole idea of, yeah, I feel like the whole codependency thing was like, what can you do for me? Like, what can you do for me? Like, you need to love me this way. You need to be this way. And now it's more like, how can I just allow? But yeah, then there's boundaries. There's all kinds of shit. I'm feeling really Pisces. My rising sign is Pisces, and I'm just like, woo, tonight.
I'm
I'm
my
also
son.
very
I'm my
exhausted and delirious.
Yeah. My sun is in Pisces, so I'm always in my Cancer. My moon is in Cancer, so I'm always bringing the water. Always bringing.
Yeah, maybe that's what you're doing because I'm like, what the hell? I hope I'm even making sense. Yeah.
I Speaking of water, there's this wonderful it's like less I gotta find I'll find the book real quick. Let's like mammal Black feminist lessons from mammals. Um
Whoa.
Feminist lesson. Okay, yes. It's called Undrowned: Black Feminist Lessons from Marine Mammals by Alexis Pauline Gumbs, Gumbs. And a friend of mine, she was reading the book and just like talked about like dolphins. I know I'm like going to totally change the subject a little bit here, but we were talking about water.
I'm here for
But
it.
we'll bring it back to relationships of like that, you know, like you think about like, are dolphins a more intelligent creature than humans? They have learned to bring so much awareness to their breath, right, that they can dive deep and then they can come up to take a breath. They know to come back up and take a breath. You know, they know how to breathe. They know there's no matter what they're doing, you know, when they're in their pods and they're playing, like they don't have like their breath isn't auto like ours. Maybe that's like some kind of like, you know, like defect in like the human like condition, right? And so just this idea of like coming up to take that breath, and that could be like taking that space for yourself, like checking on your boundaries, you know, just like how are you coming up to take a breath before you got to go back down and do this hard work of
Mhm.
loving and relationship building. And, you know, my husband and I and my son, we sometimes at dinner, we do this game called Rose, Thorn, Bud. And it's like, talk about like your roses of the day, like your best part of the day, like the thorns, and then your bud, which you're looking for tomorrow. And I was like, oh, my thorn is society. Trying to get out there and, but my bud is society, so
it is often like that, isn't it?
Yeah. You just got to make sure you just keep coming up for a breath. Keep coming up for a breath.
I love that, rose, thorn, bud. That's sweet. I love that so much. Well, I mean, I feel like this has gone in a million different directions, but it's been super amazing.
It was so lovely to talk to you.
Yes, it's been so good to talk to you too. I feel like we could talk for like hours. But we are coming up on the hour. So I just wanted to kind of ask you, is there anything else that you want to share about anything that we've talked about, or anything random, whatever?
I just feel super grateful. I really loved chatting with folks when I did interviews, because I just wanted to have authentic conversations with people, and I feel like you were such a great, like, so laid back, just really made me feel comfortable. And I think that I just want to express gratitude to you for this space that you're creating. And, for folks that are listening, like, I'd love to connect. You can find me. I think Lindsay's got my handles, and,
Yep.
Follow and share. And just, I think for me, kind of diving in that deep end is I've never, ever been wrong about this. Is like, there's always someone that like you share, and someone needed to hear that, or someone is looking for that medicine that you have. And so I just push myself to be vulnerable and to be open. And I really respect and admire that about you too, Lindsay, because I know that's one of your like best qualities, like just one of your shining superpowers for sure.
Oh, you're gonna make me cry. Thank you. You're an inspiration, and I'm honored that you said yes. I know, because we've had limited interactions and conversations, and you said yes. And not only did you say yes, but before I start this podcast, and I'll share this with the audience because I've never shared this before. This podcast is done in one raw cut. I don't edit anything, and it just flows, and it's been amazing. And I'm grateful for everyone's vulnerability. And even before we started, I said, is there anything off limits? And you said no. And I just think that is so amazing, because you're right. Maybe someone that's listening or watching, however they're consuming the information, I don't care either way, but like, maybe they needed to hear exactly what you said, or maybe something I said. And the only way that they're going to get that message is if we are open and vulnerable. And so thank you so much for saying that. And again, yes, thank you so much for being on the podcast this week. If anyone wants to connect with Jess, I do have her information in the bio. But yeah, thank you so much, Jess. And I hope everybody has a good week, and I will catch you all next week. Thanks.
Yeah. Peace.
Bye.